Hi, and thanks for joining me again. In this episode of the vlogging series, we're going to discuss some technical aspects. Probably the number one question about how to vlog is what sort of camera should I use? Now, as far as the camera, I have discussed that in a previous video, which I'll link at the end. When using your phone to take photos, there is of course no shutter curtain or manual shutter. It just uses the electronic shutter and records directly as a file. Video is merely a sequence of these photographs together in rapid succession and recorded as a file rather than on film. So what really is the best camera for YouTube? Is it one of these or is it one of these? Do I strictly use a DSLR camera or my phone? All of that is discussed in that video. Most any camera within the last 5 or 10 years should be fine. You always want to record on 1080 at least. Don't go below that. You can shoot in 4K if you want. You can shoot at different frame rates. For vlogging, yes, I would go the higher frame rate, say 50 or 60 frames per second. Will give you a much smoother flow, if that's what you're after. A lot of people still shoot at 24 frames per second. I mean, that's the old film industry standard, but yeah. Anyway, whatever rocks your boat, as they say. On the topic of cameras, by the way, if you don't already, I would highly suggest you add two things to your camera, your DSLR camera. One is a clear or UV filter, because you want to protect that lens, and filters are relatively cheap. Get a decent quality one though, don't buy rubbish, because it will affect your optimal clarity. The other thing I recommend is a lens hood, which simply snaps on and shields a lot of the sunlight from straying into the field of vision, and that can ruin your shot. And these tips come from many years as a professional photographer in a former life. Suffice it to say, the best camera is the one that you have with you. Otherwise nobody can see anything you record, can they? What's the best microphone? Well, that depends on your circumstances and environment. Today I'm recording this with a lav mic, or otherwise known as a lapel mic, which simply clips onto your shirt. Poke the end down your shirt and clip it on so the microphone is actually facing downwards. That way the cord is out of the way and you're avoiding excess noise. When you turn your head, it'll be more consistent. Rode makes pretty good microphones that are middle of the road, very popular. Mine's down here. You can even buy a little adapter to plug into your phone, and if you need to plug it into the camera, use that adapter. And I, in this case, have it directly plugged into the camera. At other times I may plug it into an external recorder and then sync up the video and sound later. You can either record on its internal microphones or plug in an external microphone. Often, especially if you're outdoors, you need a shotgun microphone which is directional. So in other words, wherever you point the microphone is where you're going to pick up the majority of the sound. This lapel mic is omnidirectional, meaning it picks up equally in all directions. And just FYI, a cardioid mic picks up mostly in the forward direction, but a little bit of the rear of the microphone, but not as much. Often when I'm physically vlogging, walking around with the camera, if it's this camera, which in this case is the Panasonic Lumix, I will use an external microphone on the hot shoe up above here, in which case any decent microphone is okay. You don't have to spend thousands for good quality. My shotgun microphone is a Studio Sennheiser microphone. It is worth heading up with all accessories about $2,000, but you don't have to spend that sort of money. You'll find these microphones usually have an adjustment also to switch to a different set of frequencies, which will either widen or narrow the field of what you're recording. And always use a windscreen to keep the extraneous noises down, like wind, heavy breathing, etc., especially outside. So what's the best lighting? Personally, I like natural light. I always have, even when I was a photographer for many years. Also, if you are familiar with most of my videos, I do tend to sit on my veranda here. I just like the open environment. But in this case, I'm using a fill light just over there, which is an LED, cheap $20, $30 LED light, very, very versatile and extremely affordable, and a real asset, because you want to balance the light when you can, as best you can. Obviously it's hard to control lighting when you're outdoors. Okay, on to tripods. Now you can hand hold your camera, as I often do myself. However, stability is number one as far as this sort of environment goes. If you have the time to plan ahead, always take something like a Gorilla Pod, which I absolutely adore. They're so versatile. You'll probably find me most of the time around home using this setup. However, sometimes you simply can't take it all with you when you're out and about, so you may have to use your phone. Of course, if you can afford a gimbal, handheld gimbal, well, then go for it. You'll get very, very smooth video. But if you can't, the Gorilla Pod is, you'll probably pick one up for $100 or thereabouts. Make sure it's strong enough for your camera though. Check into that. At the moment I'm just mounting this camera on my Manfrotto tripod, so it's firmly secured. Not everyone would realise this, but many tripods have a clip at the top of the legs that you can push in and expand the legs, and so lowering the height that you can mount the camera. That's a handy little tip. Always adjust your tripod height to be at face level or slightly above. Especially when filming women, you don't want to show a double chin or something like that. You won't be popular. Drones are great, but the popularity in videos has waned a little bit in recent times. They're still useful in establishing shots, but unless the video's about drones, you may want to cut back a bit. You by no means need a drone to do a vlog. But then this isn't really a vlog per se. I don't class it as a vlog. Most people tend to record videos like this in a studio environment. Now that doesn't mean you have to go out and use a studio. You can set something up very easily at home. Just find a blank wall or a non-distracting background. Put a bit of lighting in it, or open the windows, get a bit of light on your face, and that should suffice. Well, that's just the basics about some technical aspects that people wonder about. Never be afraid to experiment, and above all, have fun. Join me in my next video where we'll discuss how to improve your vlogging. Cheers. If you're not a subscriber, don't forget to click that button and hit the little bell so you can get all the notifications of my new videos.